Senate Republicans finally unveiling their draft of the bill to deliver on their long-held promise to repeal and replace Obamacare. The proposal largely mirrors the House bill, including deep cuts to Medicaid, big tax credits for the wealthy.
The Congressional Budget Office says the House bill would cut $834 million from Medicaid. The Senate bill makes even deeper cuts.
If the House bill was mean, the Senate bill seems to be very cruel.
Don't you have health insurance at work?
Well, actually, we gave it all up for a pinball machine in the lounge.
Oh.
Don't worry, Marge. America's healthcare system is second only to Japan, Canada, Sweden, Great Britain, well, all of Europe. But you can thank your lucky stars we don't live in Paraguay.
Welcome to The Surfs. I'm Lance.
And I'm Dave.
And today's episode is brought to you by the letter P for Pretty Boy. Because we're talking about everyone's favorite Ralph Lauren model, Justin Trudeau. And by Ralph Lauren model, I mean beautiful on the outside, but inside is a malnourished shell of a human pushing imperial neoliberal agendas around the world. That's what Ralph Lauren models are.
They're also dead inside, so
yeah, exactly, right? It's apt. This week we don't have a Lugan Press or Cretan. There's just way too much news to talk about. We're just gonna get right into all the news. It's a news special on the Surfs. You know, as servants of the people, we can only do so much. You know, we're basically doctors without borders. Well,
delusions of grandeur. I love it.
Yeah, exactly. Compared to Doctors Without Borders, we're like the Trump Foundation.
Stealing money from like cancer kids.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's a good. Okay, yeah. Compared to Doctors Without Borders, we are the Trump organization, Trump charity organization.
Exactly. But I mean, you know, in the past couple of weeks, we've really been tested as comedians with all the endless terrorist attacks and natural disasters that keep happening. And you know, it hasn't been easy, but we've been plowing through.
Wait, are you blaming us for all those terrorist attacks?
Oh, I wouldn't go that far. I mean, we're getting a little bit into the deep state, the deep probe there. Come on, brother. We'll be talking about Alex Jones soon enough. He's coming up. But yeah, it's tough to be a comedian with all this crazy news going on, and you know, I mean, it clearly got to Cosby over the years. He became like the mad king of comedy. Just like instead of pouring wildfire down people's throats, he just used Quaaludes and raped them.
Yeah. And that rapist had his day in court.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to that too. Well, we'll get to all the news, folks. There's so much news to talk about. We're going to dissect it all. But first, we should start with the most important part of every week, the most important part of the show. But for once, it's not about our, you know, petty attempt to get endorsements. It's hate mail. Because you know when you made it when you get hate mail. I mean, we've gotten some of, you know, you guys have posted some cool Instagram posts and some Facebook stuff saying, hey, check out these guys, check out the Surfs. But we had never gotten a direct letter from somebody with just vitriolic hate. And we have that now. We got it. So, yeah. I mean, it's short but sweet.
It feels special.
Yeah, it feels really special. This is more impressive than our 10th episode. But, you know, it's short and sweet. And I'm assuming I can't say people's names. I don't really know too much. We can't afford lawyers yet. So maybe I should do that disclaimer again. This is a comedy podcast. Everything we said is taken at face value. And nothing we said is real. It's all satire parody.
I'm sure it's not even the guy's real name anyways.
Yeah, that's true. Well, it came in through Facebook, though, so it shows me not only his name, but where he lives and where he works, like his actual employment.
Nice.
I know. But I won't say any of those. You know, this is being redacted. You know, this is deep state. Come on, you see that black liner on all these kind of notes. But anyways, this comes from someone I'll just call Terry J. And Terry J writes to the Surfs, you people have got to be some of the most ridiculous, stupid, and unpatriotic low-life troublemakers I've seen. Hope you get what you deserve.
I love that statement of like, I hope you get what you deserve. Because like, you know, I feel I deserve a shit ton of money and just unlimited success. So I do hope I get what I deserve. So thank you, Mr. Terry. I too hope I get what I deserve.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. It's short, it's sweet. I mean, you know, they're not calling us anything. It's not like, you know, racist or inflammatory or anything like that. But, you know, it's for our first hate letter.
It clearly hit a nerve with him, which, you know, it made me so happy to see that come in. You know?
Exactly.
And like, you know, even if you're a fan who really likes the show, if you're one of those few fans out there, if you just want to send us hate mail just to brighten our spirits, we would also greatly appreciate it. Yeah.
That's true. We'll accept it in any form.
Just out of curiosity, where was that? Like, where was this guy coming from?
Ooh, can I say that? All right, you know what?
Yeah.
I'll say it, and then maybe I'll ask our friend who's a lawyer in between this recording. So if after me saying this, you hear like blah, 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 and now on to the next topic, then you know that I've spoken to him and he said no, do not say it. But if you hear the following lines, then yes, he said it's okay. All right. Well, on to our petty attempts. Sorry, back to our petty attempts.
Back to our petty attempts to get some nice sponsorship. Sweet alcoholic sponsorship. Sweet.
We say that as we like rag on most of the drinks we try, and you usually pick like fermented wine that you've been fermenting yourself because you're too lazy to grab a drink after camping.
Yeah.
Well, what are you drinking this week, my good man?
I'm just drinking Blue Buck by Phillips Brew.
Delicious.
I might have had it before on this program, but it was in my fridge and I love it. So, you know, why
Now it's in my mouth.
thing?
That's a delicious beer. For those of you who don't get imports from Vancouver or live in the city, it's by Parallel 49, and it's one of their better staples.
Blue Buck's by Phillips.
Oh, that's right. Sorry, yeah, it's by Phillips, and it's one of their better staples.
And it's like you know, as opposed to a lot of the smaller breweries, Blue Buck is now fairly well distributed. You can get it in the States and across the country.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, and fun fact for those of you who don't know, the guy who founded that beer company did so by taking out like 10 super high interest credit cards, rolling the dice, gambling it all, and became like a success story in the liquor business.
Brilliant. I love it.
Yeah. So take that, Donald Trump. Anyone can do it.
Yeah. What about yourself?
Well, at the risk of mispronouncing a simple word like orchard, I'm going to approach the pronunciation of this drink very carefully. Montauk? No, it's Montauk. It's a really popular brewery in New York, and this happens to be their summer ale, and it's fabulous. Absolutely fabulous.
Yeah. Is it like a Hefeweizen or is it like a Saison?
It's more like a saison, so you know, a little heartier, a little hoppier. And it's they've been around since like 2012, so it's you know, I think it's an upstate New York brewery, and they're fantastic. So yeah,
sweet.
So on to the news of the week, of which, oh my God, there's so much news. It's just yeah.
I feel this week was less dominated by Trump than usual, though. I mean, obviously he gets his shots in, but yeah, it's nice to talk about other stuff.
Right, yeah. I mean, our top headlines have nothing to do with Trump. In fact, I don't think we need to really mention him at all, so he can just go back to eating Cheetos and KFC for a little while.
Fuck yeah. Fuck off, you fat fuck.
So the last time we recorded our podcast, we did it on an off day, and then you remarked upon the fact that we hadn't spoken or opened with a terrorist attack, and then one unfortunately happened the next day. And then another one has happened since. So, I mean, I guess the freshest one in everyone's minds is the attack on the mosque that just happened on Monday.
Yes, Sunday evening.
Sunday evening, yes. So this was another incident of, I guess, white terrorism, right? It's a guy named Darren Osborne who plowed into a group of Muslim worshippers. And while he was wrestled to the ground, he was screaming he wanted to kill Muslims. You know, Theresa May used it as an opportunity to, you know, condemn tolerance of Islamophobia and said there's been far too much tolerance of extremism. You know, just another notch in her dumpster fire flaming tour.
God.
Yeah. Like,
she basically crawled out of her hole to, you know, elicit a little line of, you know, condemnation before she crawled back in and hid from the public.
Yeah. She won't crawl out of her hole long enough to actually meet the victims of the families of the London fire, but she will crawl out of her hole to condemn Islamophobia. Tolerance of Islamophobia.
It's simple. It's similar to Trump. I mean, I know we weren't going to really talk about him, but like he didn't say anything about the incident that took place in London.
No, of course not. Why would he?
Yeah, and all those incidences of white terrorism he hasn't mentioned whatsoever.
No.
No. And he's quick to obviously rail against any kind of incident involving Islamic terrorism. Obviously, at the end of the day, this shit sucks, right? It sucks on both parties. An extremist on either side just fucking sucks ass. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Whether you're an Islamic terrorist or a fucking white nationalist terrorist, or
we're going to be talking about a Bernie bro terrorist later on the show.
Bernie bro terrorist, or like if you're just a Pokemon terrorist. I don't fucking know.
Well, there's so many Pikachu terrorists running around the streets. Actually, that would have been a great idea because there was so much Pokemon Go going down, just to become a Pokemon Go terrorist.
Dressing up as like a Pikachu and then like committing horrible acts against, I guess, other people dress in different Pokemon. It's like Pokemon race hate or something. Just throw
the lamest race war ever.
It would be, the one hilarious part of that. I mean, I guess there'd be many hilarious parts of that. But I would love to see how the news networks would cover Pokemon race war.
The Yellow Menace is back, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, I guess the biggest terrorist of all is Mother Nature, because she has just been ripping through people's lives. Oh, that was a terrible segue. You know what? I'm using it anyway. That's staying in. But one of the biggest incidents of the last week and a half happens to be fires, like old fashioned natural disasters.
Old fashioned.
Yeah, an old fashioned natural disasters. But there was obviously the fires in Portugal that has already killed more than 60. Terrible. They've been ripping through Figueiro dos Finos. I think that's how you pronounce that place.
And I believe those are still raging right
Those
now.
are still raging. And the craziest thing about them is apparently half the people who've been killed through them were doing so driving through it. So they were trying to... Isn't that insane? That's like a fucked up video game or something. Like you wouldn't see that in GTA 5.
I don't even know. Like when I read that at first, I was like I wasn't sure what that meant. Was that people gawking at like the fire and then
no. They were trying to. They were like obviously they saw the flames and stuff. They felt they could get through it, so they were driving at top speeds. But like these hardcore horrible. Flames were enveloping the roadways.
That's just awful. Like it's just and that's something I've never really heard of before. We've seen all these crazy natural disasters over the years, from earthquakes or hurricanes to, I don't know,
Trump.
But all the deaths you usually see are those predicted and those regular with those kind of earthquake or natural disasters.
Well, yes. I mean, as the planet gets hotter, there is, a whole bunch of natural events that are becoming, whether it's tornadoes, hurricanes, whatever it is, they're happening at a much more frequent rate now. So all of a sudden, for example, droughts in California led to the California wildfires.
But Lance, you're forgetting a simple thing here. That's all fake news.
Yeah, forgive me. Forgive me. I'm the Lugan Press this week.
I mean, the shocking part about both these fire incidents, like even the Portugal one, it's a natural forest fire that we see all over the world. But you never see a death toll that high for one of these.
Absolutely. But I mean, speaking of natural fires, the London fire is a bit of a different case.
Yes. I mean, its beginnings are
its origin story is still in the natural world.
It's like man-made natural, like an accident, a faulty something. I think it was a faulty refrigerator. These things happen living in society.
Yes.
What doesn't happen, and especially doesn't happen in developed top, world-class
G7 countries.
Is a death toll and a disaster of this staggering level. This is something I would see in Bangladesh, where it's like 100 people died in a fire. You'd be like, fuck, that sucks. That country needs get their shit in order.
Their infrastructure must be abysmal, and there must be no government oversight.
Yeah. It is, and that's always what it is, right? It's like it's just everybody dropping the ball. So,
well, I mean, this is also social project housing. So this is this is a great juxtaposition to the election that just occurred, in which Theresa May got her ass handed to her, handedly by, a socialist candidate, Jeremy Coburn, who didn't beat her, but I mean, he still made gains. Well, no, but he still made gains of which no one thought was possible, right? I mean, you can't take that away from their campaign.
No, definitely. It's just funny how we always how everybody frames it as like May got her ass kicked, but she still won.
I still stand by that because at the end of the day, she's trying to cobble together, like we said, this mutant parliamentary minority that will not last. Like, not only is it not going to last, but her little union with the DUP is it's so onerous. It's got such a small timeline on it, and I think it's going to push even more people towards Jeremy Coburn because they're like, not only did we hate her failed, imperialist policies, but now she's aligned with someone who's this homophobic quasi terroristy organization.
Definitely.
I guess I don't have to choose my words carefully because this is a comedy podcast and nothing to say. But yeah, so either way, this was great because no, this was not. The fire was not great, but
well, we really jumped the shark in terms of comedy right there.
Yeah, I know, right? No, that's why I burst out laughing. Sorry, I misspoke. But no, the fire is horrific and horrible and a tragedy. But what was great was just how this is now being seen as basically Theresa May's Katrina, right? In the way she's handled it, in the way that she arrived on the scene with a whole bunch of police officers, but didn't meet with any of the victims' families, because they're basically garbage dumpster poor people that she doesn't want to meet. Like, they're garbage people and we shouldn't meet with the garbage people and they're below me. And meanwhile, you've got Jeremy Coburn, who I think was there as early.
I mean, that's it. That's his base, right? I mean, that's where he's, for him, it's politically where you're going to make your money.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And it's not just Theresa May. It's the Tories as a whole have a lot to lose in this whole fucking clusterfuck because, I mean, it was well known in the House. It was well known and established that building was a death trap. That wasn't up to code, fire code. That the scaffolding that they put up was basically made.
Did you read that the cladding that was used in the tower has been banned from UK high rises, across the board? Yeah.
Yep. Nobody cared, right? And I know the scaffolding they put up, which helped the fire really spread, was basically put up so the building wouldn't look as shitty from the outside, and because the local neighborhood, it's I believe the tower itself was in Chelsea, and obviously for those don't aware, Chelsea is a super posh area of London.
Yeah.
So a lot of people in the neighborhood wanted that building to be look nicer. So they put more money into scaffolding.
I thought you were about to say they wanted it to be demolished.
Well, I mean, call a spade a spade.
Oh, that's horrible.
I mean, as of now, as of today, the death toll is 79 people and it's still climbing.
Yeah, which, just so brutal. I mean, there's nothing really that can be said about that. It's just incredibly sad. Hopefully this will shine a bit of a light onto social housing and the crisis of social housing in modernized cities and countries. I
don't think so.
Well, I said hopefully.
In England, at least, in Britain, it's reigniting this. I mean, something that we've seen everywhere, but it's really reigniting this class warfare, class debate. The riches versus the poor, income inequality, which obviously is plaguing everybody in the first, well, not even the first world. All over the world, we're seeing, fallout of generations of income inequality and that's not getting better.
I don't think we're seeing the fallout of it. I mean, the 1% still control the world, but we're seeing anger towards it. Maybe. Yeah. We're seeing protests and awareness for sure. Let's just say and let's hope that this is one of the many, many nails in the coffin that eventually downs the Tories and,
I doubt it too. I mean, they just dominate the Parliament there.
Well, we spoke a little bit about this at the top of the show, but the shooting of the House Majority Whip.
I think you know where I feel about this whole situation.
Maybe I thought I did, but you have to explain it now.
Well, okay. Well, obviously everybody knows that the senator or congressman was shot during the annual baseball game between those two dickhole parties in Congress.
Yeah.
We'll get to the shooter in a moment. The shootee. Well, I mean, there was multiple people who were shot, but obviously the majority.
There was two police officers, a congressional aide, and a lobbyist.
Yeah, and I mean, I have nothing against those guys. You know, like obviously, you know, get healed up and all the best thoughts and all that shit. But
oh, I don't like where this is going.
This is a comedy podcast. comedy. I just don't. I have a hard time feeling too much sympathy for, you know, Steve Scalise or whatever his fucking name is. I have a hard time feeling sympathy for a man who has gone out of his way to enshrine gun rights to those who shouldn't be qualified to have guns. Who's, you know, he's a hyper gun nut who has basically not opened the door, but passed legislation and stopped legislation keeping guns out of the hand of the mentally ill. You know, he's got a long laundry list of basically pushing for the NRA and just the gun lobbyist demands all the time. Yeah. And the guy who shot him obviously is a bit of a fucking nut bar.
Yes, well, we'll get to him in a bit. But I agree with you. It is kind of, well, I mean, that's not the proper use of the term ironic, but it is almost ironic for someone to be shot when they tried to push or they tried to deregulate gun laws the way that, you know, Steve Scalise did. Yeah, and I mean, like the people who, you know, it comes back to that whole NRA argument. It's like, oh, the only people who are going to stop a guy with a gun is a, you know, a good guy with a gun. I was like, yeah, I guess so. You know what we call those people generally? Fucking police. You know, trained personnel who are there to defuse the situation. And surprise, surprise, the police are the ones who brought him down, not some fucking gun-toting citizen or member of Congress pulled out his gat and fucking shot him. These guys all pushed that. They all pushed that argument in when they're in the Congress. Well, where the fuck were their guns? Why don't you guys, you know, pull them out and fucking defend yourself? Assholes. Yeah. And I mean, there's obviously no gun debate that really came from the whole thing, but we've said before, if Sandy Hook didn't do it, ain't nothing gonna do it.
Yeah,
you know,
nothing's
if
moving the
dead
needle.
children didn't start or, you know, stop the gun debate, ain't nothing gonna do it. I mean, we haven't really brought up the gun debate on the surfs yet because we're kind of young, but you know, for those of you who know, as Canadians, I think you just got your gun license, right?
Like, we're not, fuck yeah.
Right.
So we're not anti-gun, obviously.
No, we feel that a deranged alcoholic on a podcast needs a gun.
Well, I mean, I was approved by the RCMP. I don't think they've been listening to this podcast.
Yet.
No, I mean, like, I'm obviously, you know, in the States, I mean, not to derail this too much, like, you know, sensible gun regulations or sensible
that's the reason
gun
I brought
laws.
it up. Yes.
Yeah. You know, maybe one day we'll really get into it, but like right now, it's
it'll be a topic of the week one week. But I mean, you know, in Canada, to get a gun, like you should go through just really Cole's notes. Like, you know, what did you have to endure? What did you have to endure to get your gun license?
I had to do like a 2-day course, which was not even a course. It was just a safety seminar about guns, and then they do a thorough background check on you.
Right, and then you basically flash your dick, and if it's the size of the pistol, you get it. Right.
Yeah. So I had this like small snub nose 38 coming. It's about 2 inches long, but my God,
it's dangerous. But no, in all seriousness, like it is to me a lot more responsible in terms of its you know, it's administration, right? You have to take a course on gun safety. You have a background check. You aren't allowed to have firearms outside of shotguns, pistols, and handguns. And if you do, they have to be registered. You know, it's sensible gun policy.
Stuff. And like, obviously that wouldn't apply. We're not saying, you know, apply that obviously right away to the States or the similar thing, but you know, like I think we can all agree, and most people in the States, like the majority of the populace agrees that like there should be sensible background checks. And this is got like between the actual public, there's bipartisan support for this. People think that crazy people shouldn't have guns.
I don't think that's right. Most people think that terrorists, like people on the terrorist list, shouldn't have guns, right?
Yes, of course, right?
And I like
obviously to bring it back to the shooting incident.
Yeah, and Steve Scalise.
I mean, that guy, not the congressman who was shot, but his shooter
Yeah, James Hodgkinson.
Hodgkinson. What's a weird name?
Yeah, it's an odd name, but he was a 60-year-old Bernie Grandpo.
Yeah, and who was a bit of a nut job, who had domestic assaults on his file and spouted crazy shit.
Yeah,
Like I think the last I read, he also had an assassination list or something targeting specific people of the Republicans. I don't know if that's entirely true or if that's just fake news.
Bernie Sanders unequivocally came out and said that he did work on my well, he didn't work on my campaign, but he
was a little lackey, political lackey. There's so many of those people who volunteer.
There's thousands of them. There's thousands of volunteers. You can't background check every single one of them, and one or two of them might be fringe. And this goes again to prove that there is radical people on the left, radical people on the right. They all fucking suck shit. It doesn't matter what side of the fence you're on. And it was a good opportunity for Trump and his cronies basically to try and take advantage of it. And
sympathy card. Actually, in fact. I don't know if you were to go here, but as of right now, as we're recording this, is that special runoff election that's happening in Georgia tonight. And
unfortunately, we're not going to be able to cover it live.
No, but people affiliated with the Republican side, their aides and anonymous sources on the Republican side, were all saying that they thought the shooting was going to help them bring in extra votes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh.
So.
Well, Theresa May said the exact same thing about the London tax.
Yeah, that's true.
How did that turn out? How did politicizing horrific, tragic events work out for you?
In her credit, when she said that, and then the other party's wait, weren't you the one who massively cut police force money and funding to the police? That generally hurts you big time.
Yeah, absolutely. But just to finish on this, because we've been beating this horse a little bit. The final point I wanted to make is that none of them have even gone to this was the terrorist attack.
Because I think unequivocally the guy was a terrorist. He was trying to kill and elicit fear and violence.
Again, we say this so much, but it's the definition of terrorism. It's the textbook definition of terrorism. Yeah, absolutely.
Wait, sorry. Did that guy die or did they just arrest him?
No, he's dead. He got shot dead.
Oh, okay.
All right. Well, moving on from the shootings and the terrorism, we should talk a little about the true terrorism on people's health, which happens to be the healthcare bill being pushed in secret.
Yeah. It's pretty shitty. McConnell and his cronies are basically trying to write a secret bill in the Senate, not review it, and essentially just pass it real quickly without letting anybody know. From everything that's been written about it, this move is unprecedented.
Yes, that's the word American I keep hearing.
History.
Unprecedented.
And when you really this isn't some small bill for traffic infrastructure or some shit like that. There's a large chance that millions of people's health insurance will be at stake here. So,
I believe the number is 23 million actually.
See, I might be fucking dying of AIDS now.
Fantastic. Well, what's funny is when the Comey and Sessions testimonies were going down, I was getting a lot of these, far left conspiracy theories and tweets and Reddit and stuff saying that this is all smoke and mirrors while they secretly pass a healthcare bill in the background. I don't think it's smoke and mirrors. I think they're way too stupid to pull that kind of optics off. But I do think that this is definitely being passed off in the background. Whether or not they're using distractions in all other, facets of the media in the meantime, it's definitely being done in the background. It's being done in the background by a group of men. We should reiterate this. It's all men who are working on this bill right now. And, because they're also all really old, they'll probably be dead before the ramifications of this really affect them or their grandchildren. Well, it'll
can only hope.
Kids. Yeah, we can only hope. But because they have penises, they can't really speak for half of the population as well, right?
It's never stopped American men before.
It's never stopped anyone.
That's never stopped anyone. Yeah, I stand corrected. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Mitch McConnell is basically the architect really trying to push this through. He's been in the healthcare scene ever since the Affordable Healthcare Act was first being devised. He was part of the original 6, working on that. And if you guys have listened to previous episodes, we also talked about how he was basically using the opportunity of Obamacare to try and push through weak legislation that he knew would eventually, ideally by his standards, crumble. And if it did crumble, then he would get to achieve some, I guess, where we see ourselves now, which is basically this Trump care possibly passing. He set July 4th as the deadline for this.
Fucked up.
Yeah. I mean, they're always comparing Mitch McConnell to the beloved children's cartoon Franklin the Turtle, which is fair. Like, he does look a lot like a turtle. But last I checked, Franklin didn't try to take healthcare from 23 million Americans.
No. Franklin was like doofy, Franklin was a goofy, naive idiot, but he was well-natured and good-hearted. Which is like the exact opposite of McConnell, who is a snake in a friendly turtle's clothing. Yeah, you can't put it any better than that. And I mean, like you said, they've been doing these GOP meetings with no debates. Again, they're trying to pass this with no CBO score. I wonder why. And they're setting the vote this Thursday, right? Like they're voting on it Thursday. I don't think I'm not sure if they're voting on it this Thursday. Maybe,
or is it it's next Thursday. There's a 2-week period. Because they're going to release the text on Friday. But the fact that they're doing this with no open public debate when it pretty much affects the public, is really shady.
Yeah. What I don't get about it is this like wanton disregard for your constituents. Like, do they not fear that they might lose their election next time? Like, if it really fucks people over, won't people be like, fuck you guys?
Absolutely.
Are they, generally in politics and democracies anyways, people are held back on, pushing through policy that will detrimentally hurt their own constituents because you don't want to lose your seat. But here it's like, fuck it, let's be as evil as we can. Fuck it. If Donald Trump was president, who gives a fuck anymore?
Firebomb healthcare, here we go.
Yeah.
Well, this was a good quote I just wanted to read. The lack of attention being paid to the bill indicates McConnell's strategy of avoiding publicity by drafting the bill behind closed doors, holding no hearings, and unveiling the bill's text as the last possible minute is paying dividends. And it's true.
Yeah.
Wake up, I guess. I don't know what else to say about this one. Just hopefully there should be more public outrage over this.
Yeah, I mean, when Congress first made that Trump care bill back,
there was so much noise.
Yeah, it seems like people. This was sort of the fear of the Trump administration, that there'd be so much shit thrown out the window that people would lose sight and just lose hope and stop the fight.
Yeah, and that's what we're seeing right now.
Which is the worst possible Canadian scenario. Like this is going to be a tough forced years of
apathy.
Resistance. You can't get apathetic.
You can't have 4 years of apathy.
In all
we haven't even scratched the surface of the fuck-uppery that's going to be happening under the Trump administration.
And this stands for any kind of democracy in any country.
Yes.
If the public gets apathetic, that's when those fucking assholes in charge take advantage and push whatever they want through.
Absolutely. Speaking of assholes trying to push stuff through, we should talk about our official sponsor, our mascot, our hero, our living embodiment of all things strange, Mr. Alex Jones.
Yeah, he got his little press time this last week, or national exposure this week.
Yeah, so the social justice warriors, the social media was all going crazy because Alex Jones was going primetime. He was getting his first, full hour-long interview on NBC. It was going to be hosted by Megyn Kelly, and a lot of people were outraged, I guess, including Sandy Hook parents, who, for those of you who don't know, Alex Jones is a Sandy Hook conspiracy theorist who believes that Sandy Hook was fake. It was faked in order to push a gun legislation agenda, which didn't happen. He's
they're not doing well with that. He's a loon. I mean, he also leaked that video audio clip before that interview aired. Basically, that was a phone call with him and Megyn Kelly, and she's basically like, "Don't worry, I'm not going to portray you that hard. I'm going to go easy. It's not like what you think." Which he released before, basically discredited Megyn Kelly.
Well, he tried to discredit her with it.
Yeah, the whole thing's pretty fucked up. I mean, I agree with a lot of people out there that are like, Alex Jones should not get national coverage. He's not a guy who's shining light on.
But at this point, you can't really ignore him, right? Like we said before, has gone mainstream. He has a press pass. They have press credentials in the White House. So
yeah, but I mean, you're playing into his game by giving him more time, right? he is a cockroach that should stay in the shadows. Just because you see that cockroach doesn't mean you go asking him questions. You know, he starts scampering under your floor. I'm not asking him questions. I'm not fucking pulling out the microphones, being like,
yeah, I guess I'd say one of the good things to come from this, because he's, like you said, he's been releasing all that. You know, this is the real story. This is the true angle that you don't know about. Yeah, he has been doing a lot of these specials, and his latest, like, Alex Jones show. And I mean, you guys out there, we were saying we were Doctors Without Borders before, but the fact that I had to watch an entire episode of InfoWars to be able to speak about this plays into that. Yeah, ouch. I know, shudder and shiver. But yeah, in his latest episode, the opening of it now is this enormous montage of Alex Jones and celebrities and famous people, you know, like Stephen Colbert and The Daily Show and CNN, all talking about him, all mentioning him, because he's all over the media, right? And then him starting the show, trying to be like, you know, a lot of the true followers of the show don't believe that we're really talking about the truth. Well, now everyone is talking about Crimean hybrid lizard people, and now it's in the mainstream, and that made me so happy, because I was like, I thought that he was leaving the Crimean hybrid animal people alone because he didn't want to keep coming across as an insane person. But I mean, after Megyn Kelly kind of exposed, or at least tried to, you know, really run down the narrative of, you actually said that the Sandy Hook kids' deaths were fake, and that's, you know, out there in the ether now by most people. He was again going back to his, like, you know, homosexual frogs and the Crimean hybrid people. So I think that's the only
frogs.
Yeah, that's the only positive to come out of this.
What I also liked this morning, I didn't watch that interview.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah. But I did read this today that its ratings were lower than reruns of America's Funniest Videos.
It bombed. That's the best part about it.
Yeah, that is absolutely the best part.
All the controversy, all the outrage for nothing. It bombed. It absolutely bombed. And I mean, for any of those on the left who are suddenly embracing Megyn Kelly, let me remind you, it wasn't too long ago that Megyn Kelly was on Fox News talking about how Santa Claus is white and should only be white, and that, you know, Christmas is under attack, and the Christian Christmas is under attack, and all that other bullshit narrative that Fox News used to spread. So, you know,
yeah,
she's not your...
sucks.
Yeah, she's not your Ubermensch. She can go fuck herself, and it's, you know, it's a bold move by NBC to pick her up and now start, you know, parading her around. But yeah,
NBC's picked up a bunch of right wing pundits.
That seems to be their latest power move. To a certain degree, it is working. It does get a lot of news and attention.
Yeah, definitely.
And,
I mean, other than her show last night,
which got neither. You know what also got nothing was the Bill Cosby trial. Like, there wasn't huge crowds of people outside. It wasn't like the Michael Jackson trial where, like, you know, there was just throngs of fans or anything. Maybe it was just kind of on mute with everything else that's going on in the world.
He's an old man, and it's like, whatever.
And I guess you could say that he kind of had his real trial in the public light a couple of years ago, when it suddenly he was scrutinized to the point that everyone jumped ship. You know, like, even the last holdouts, like even Whoopi Goldberg was like, okay, I gotta back away from your Quaalude popping raping ass.
And I mean, you know, what's sexual assault anymore when the president has, like, openly admitted that he's sexually assaulted?
When the president is an open rapist, you know, like, what chance do 60 plus women have in the sphere of things to be able to actually pull up, like, you know, decades old trial? And yeah, it sucks. So for those of you who don't know, the Bill Cosby trial, there was a split jury. They were deliberating for so long they couldn't come to a conclusion, and it was a mistrial. And while the DOA has said that they're still going to persecute it, you know, it's likely that this will either happen again, or, you know, we've seen the last of it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, hopefully he takes some Quaaludes and gets sexually assaulted by the president.
Yeah, that would be fantastic.
How about that? How about if, like, it's not the Russian scandal or all the shit that brings Donald Trump down, but what brings him down is, like, you know, roofing Bill Cosby and raping Bill Cosby, and that's what brings down the president of the United States. Oh man, dare to dream.
Mwah. Delicious. So yeah, this week we obviously had a lot of news to get through, as you can tell by how far we are into the podcast already. But we still do have a topic of the week, and this week we are talking about the Justin Trudeau woo. And we're saying woo because it's not so much Justin Trudeau. We're not going to just tackle him. I mean, we might need to give him a little bit more time and have him do some more egregious things, but at this point it's more the idea that the entire world is fawning over this guy as if he is the, you know, the voice and the image of liberal perfection, when he is much more a centrist. For those of you who don't, you know,
he's like a youthful centrist. He's a good-looking youthful centrist politician.
Yes.
I mean, to be fair, I think a lot of his appeal now exists because there's so many shitty politicians out there.
Yeah. And you know, for those of you who don't know who was the prime minister before Justin Trudeau, Stephen Harper, we lived through a very dark 7 years. So I don't want to forget those horrible, horrible years where I was crying myself to sleep on a regular basis. And I am much happier under Trudeau than I ever was under Harper. But at the same time, I just don't want this hypocrisy to be out there in both the media and, you know, social media as well. So it's either you're seeing it in the news or you're seeing it on your friend's Reddit, where they talk about, you know, how Justin Trudeau is this feminist who promotes social justice. And he does do some of those things.
You know what? To be fair, I think that's what he really does. He has taken identity politics and really ran with it. You know, and obviously there's nothing wrong with that. Like, obviously, if you listen to this podcast, you know, we're all for you know, progressive identity policies and all that stuff, gay rights and you know, trans rights and pot and all that fun stuff. But he really packages that whole thing up as his go-to, while still you know, governing with a shady
still pushing
side.
the, you know, the old Reagan era neoliberal agenda of, you know, selling huge amount of weapons to the Saudis, being a Canadian arms dealer.
Being like, I mean, he ran, and this is nothing new. You see this in politics all the time, is he ran harshly against Harper for being one of the least transparent, maybe the least transparent prime minister we've ever had before. And Trudeau was basically just continued that. You know, he was like, I'm going to be open. And it's like, no, sorry. Unless you considered me being open by being having like social media spots that are completely fabricated and, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
I mean, he's got this Instagram persona, right? Like it's on fleek. We were talking about being on fleek, but you know what? Justin Trudeau is on fleek. He's fleeking. No one's fleeking quite like Trudeau.
I was thinking about this the other day. Is obviously Justin Trudeau has weaponized social media in the modern era as a politician.
Oh, yes.
Which, you know, which is fair. I mean, that's what other politicians did with traditional media. But at the same time, so is Donald Trump, right? Donald Trump only is president because of Twitter and social media.
Well, no, I think that's kind of reductionist to say that he's only president because of social media.
I guarantee, I would bet everything I own, Donald Trump would not be president if it wasn't for Twitter and his Twitter account. No way.
Right, but that's a contributing factor then. It's not solely because of Twitter.
Well, yeah, it is. Fuck him. I'm going there.
Well,
you hear that, Twitter? I'm blaming you. I hold Twitter ultimately responsible. 100%.
But you're right in that, you know, Donald Trump definitely has a very, very powerful Twitter account. I'm just going to say Twitter account, but he does have a very powerful social media message that they like to claim gets his message out to the people quicker than anyone else.
Yeah.
But I don't think Donald Trump in any way has a curated social media presence, which Justin Trudeau has in spades, right?
Sure.
Like you don't see Donald Trump popping up at someone's wedding or walking in the forest and stuff like that. And then it's like, oh my God, he's the darling child of our country. Like that doesn't really. Yeah.
Trudeau's a lot more. Well, I mean, let's be fair. A lot of that stuff is just him being out there. A lot of instances he's popped up in other people's feeds, or, you know, he is more outgoing than what you would see most politicians. He's also younger and he's outdoorsy in the Canadian sense.
He's physically fit.
So people see him. It's like he's hiking out there, and he's not posting these pictures. He's hiking, and some other family meets him hiking somewhere, and they're like, "Oh, we want pictures," and he's obviously going to smile, and then that becomes its own like socially. He both curates and pushes this social media narrative, and then he also takes full advantage of other people pushing it on, which is sort of its own cottage industry.
Right.
I just meant in the whole Trump thing is they both out of more so other than other politicians worldwide, they both really use it to their advantage in a way that we haven't seen in the old guard of politics. Obviously with Trump,
but
it's
to
weird
be fair,
because
it wasn't really as available to the old.
No, definitely not. But I mean, right now you could do other people could do it.
That's true.
They don't.
I mean, if you want an example of someone doing it terribly, Anthony Weiner.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah,
that's what you don't do.
yeah. Dick pics.
Yeah, more dick pics. The world wants dick pics. Come on. Yeah. All right. So to dissect before we dissect what we don't like about Trudeau and what I think people fawn over when they shouldn't, and the hypocrisy of the Trudeau administration, I want to quickly say that under this those dark years of Stephen Harper, like we were talking about, I was incredibly happy when Trudeau got elected that he immediately unmuzzled Canadian scientists. That was one of my biggest gripes with the Harper administration, and fair to his word, he changed that overnight. He created that national public inquiry into the missing and murdered Indigenous women in Canada, which is into thousands at this point. He instilled that interim federal health program that gave healthcare benefits to refugees, which didn't exist before. He increased our refugee acceptance rate to, I think, 10,000, or was it 25,000? Which compared to Germany is still abysmal. And compared to the country of Canada, we're still it's embarrassing. But at least he was, trying to push that. But right there is basically the precipice of Trudeau, because there was not in terms of the things he's done. I'm just saying that here's the crossing line. There, the refugee. Case in point was a lot of photo ops, was a lot of him kissing refugee babies and kissing fresh refugees off the plane, and everyone's like, hey man, God, he's so beautiful, and the babies are beautiful, and this is all wonderful. And at the same time, 25,000, like I just said, is an abysmal number for our country to be accepting in terms of refugees.
Well, I mean, you say that, no, but we don't really have the resources of, we're not Germany. We don't have a strong economy. We don't, for us to bring in a lot. I mean, Germany brought a lot of them because they didn't have a choice. They just fucking squeezed their way in there.
Well, it's also, proximity. But I'm sure you've read that there's, numerous economic studies that say Canada can withhold a lot more refugees than it currently takes in. Not to mention, refugees, on the whole, do contribute back to society. Like if you have proper refugee working program. Yeah. You know what? We're gonna get lost in refugee. From the topic of it. We're going too deep.
But no. Either way, back to your point. Yeah, I mean, he basically made a mountain out of a small molehill. It was 25,000 people brought in, which is great. It's a step in the right way, right? The attitude is ideal. And I applaud him for his open willingness and attitude. That is infectious and it's good. But he also makes way too much credit for these kind of events. It's it was Photoshop after Photoshop. It was what was it?
It was Photoshop, brother. He wasn't really there. The refugees are Crimean child people.
It's a photo op after photo op after photo op.
Yes.
And he's good at that. Hey, I mean, I'm sure he knows it. I mean, fuck it.
Yeah,
but then
it wasn't too long after all these wonderful things had happened that Trudeau suddenly went along with the Harper era Saudi Arabian arms deal, which I believe was like $11 billion of weaponry to Saudi Arabia, and for the prime minister to label himself as a feminist, which I'm sure most intelligent people would at this point. I mean, the definition of feminism is basically just equal rights for both sexes. And at the same time, sell $11 billion worth of arms to one of the most deplorable human rights records countries in regards to women and homosexuals as well. That's kind of, it's one of those, this is just the par for the course moment, right?
That's it. That's how you govern,
Yes.
That's it. I mean, I know people are really choked about a lot of these things, but I feel from a lot of people who got bought in by fuck Donald Trump. A lot of people who got bought in by Trudeau's cult of personality were young and naive, young and naive voters, new voters who just don't know how the game is played. I mean, that's how you govern. He's got to balance a policy of his own social policy at home, as well as keeping economy running, keeping world alliances running, and that shit sucks. I mean, fuck Saudi Arabia, obviously, but
yeah. So that should bring us into a little teeny discussion on neoliberalism. So we should talk a little bit about it because Trudeau is neoliberal with a pretty face. That's exactly what he is, right?
Yeah.
My favorite way to summarize neoliberalism is just the concept that if everyone in the world ate McDonald's and had modems, there'd be no war. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, no, it's
but no, I mean, there's unfortunately it's a difficult term to dissect because there's actually a couple different definitions of neoliberalism. But when we refer to saying Trudeau's a neoliberal, he's kind of an economically neoliberal, and the term liberal and neoliberal doesn't necessarily apply. The term liberal and neoliberal applies to a liberalization of markets and workers' rights, and it's been kind of the way of the world since Reagan and Thatcher's era. Bill Clinton is a neoliberal. George Bush is a neoliberal.
Which is, I mean, like, it's I mean, that's such a shitty umbrella. Like, basically every country is a neoliberal or you're a fascist. I mean, that spectrum's pretty broad, right? I mean, if you're going to say everybody on both sides, like anybody in a Western democracy is basically neoliberal, regardless of, their policies. That's, I mean, like, I understand it definitely does fall under the definition of it. But like, who isn't, what first world nation isn't a neoliberal nation then?
Yeah. Well, okay. That might be a bit of an umbrella statement then. Let's take it back to, who are some of the pioneers in neoliberalism? There's Thomas Friedman, that New York Times writer, who used to say that it refers to like the free market, to unregulated economics.
But we're like, for sure.
It's like it's a liberalization of labor laws and trade laws. It's protecting the population from the tyranny of unrestrained capitalism and
definitely. But in that same regard, like we can't compare comparing that, like that's like saying Harper was a neoliberal and Trudeau's a neoliberal, and obviously there's a huge gulf.
They were difference. They both were.
Yeah,
but I would make that comparison. I would say that Harper and Trudeau both adhere to this.
Yeah, but I mean, so do I. So, like, I mean, like,
the brought to you by neoliberalism.
I mean, like, what's the alternative? Like communism, basically?
No. Okay, well, we don't have to go that far, but we can say, and I'm sure you would agree with this, that while we, we are recording this podcast via the benefits of free market capitalism and the internet and electricity and all these wonderful things that are mainstream, that neoliberalism and globalization often doesn't benefit the poor as much as it benefits the rich.
Sure. But I mean,
it does so at an incredible disparity.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody's denying that. But I mean,
that's why you have like kleptocracies all over the place.
I just have a hard time reconciling that basically every first world capitalist country is the same under that like broad spectrum, and that's my only argument there is that we're basically saying there's no difference between like Trudeau is a neoliberal, but by that same token, the leader of every G7 country is a neoliberal. So we're not really putting anything of substance on that label.
But that is technically true.
Yeah. But I mean, like, I don't know.
That's what it is. This is the game, folks. Like we talked about, the rich people who control the world. We talked about how the world is run. This is part of it.
Okay, if people thought they were electing Justin Trudeau, who wasn't going to be a neoliberal, then they're fucking retarded. I mean,
yes, and there we go. That's the crux that we need to get at. That's the whole point.
At no point
You said it.
At no point was his platform anti-neoliberal. He was very neoliberal in the whole thing.
Well, no, because no one talks about it. No one even knows what this term means, right? Like no one discusses this.
I mean, but like that's just. I mean, even the NDP is basically neoliberal here. I mean, there is no
you can't have neoliberal countries that still want to have social structures. You can still have. I think you and me fall in that spectrum of the map where you want to have. I don't want to basically stop free market capitalism. I don't think if you want to be industrious and create companies and create technological advances or whatever you want to do, you should be impeded in that. But at the same time, we should also use all this enormous wealth and gain to have social structures and social safety nets for people. But I mean, that's our utopia, right?
But yeah, but I mean, I don't think the Liberals or Ed Trudeau is against that.
He's not against that.
He's funny, his budget still has a lot of money going towards safety. It's not like this is Theresa May that's cutting like all safety nets and all public works, right? He's
definitely more socially liberal than Theresa May.
Yeah.
I mean, the point we were trying to get at was, I just love how you said that. If you think he's not, if you voted for him thinking he wasn't a neoliberal, you're a fucking idiot.
Yeah. I mean, basically, I think what we're getting at is Trudeau is what he. You know what? Trudeau basically reminds me a lot of Obama when he was first elected, in that you're young, you promise all these youth and young people, you sell on hope and change, but that hope and change is still sold within the system, right? It's mechanism within the system. Neither of those parties, and obviously that got Obama into trouble by all his disillusionment from his younger voters who thought there was, I don't know, I guess hope and change could be anything, right? And the same way that a lot of Trudeau voters are like, oh, he promised me this and he's not delivering. It's like, well, yeah, I mean, these guys lie all the time. What made you think Trudeau was going to be completely different? He's going to promise you everything?
No, of course not. Of course not.
That sucks.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. But
and there is also the the hypocrisy of the environment, where he's pushing the fact that he really espouses that climate change is a huge factor in the destruction of the world. The Paris Agreement is really important, while at the same time the Alberta oil sands are one of the worst offenders for climate change. Like there's hypocrisy there, and it sucks.
Definitely.
And
I mean, but as obviously Canada's economy is pretty shitty and relies a lot on oil. So, fuck. I mean,
well, that goes back to what you're saying. Like, you can't necessarily destroy the machine. Like, I think that might have been the crux of what took down the Bernie Sanders argument, was that if you that idea, rage against the machine, destroy the entire mechanism. You can't do that all at once, and I don't think Trudeau is ever going to come close to even thinking about doing that.
I don't even think. Yeah, I think at no point did he want to destroy the machine. You just want to fix the machine a little bit better.
That was not the candidate you were electing, right?
No,
you were electing a more socially liberal machine.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm going to be part of the machine. I use the machine. We like the machine, and the machine feeds me and you. And well, at the same time, I'm going to be a feminist and a pro-gay rights prime minister kind of thing.
Yeah. And pro-pot.
Yeah. And pro-pot. Yes. I will not take away the fact that he's still following through on legalizing marijuana.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean I should sit back and be happy about, the environment getting completely raped while I can smoke weed at the same time. Yeah. But as long as I can smoke a joint, I'm cool, brother.
Well, I mean, you say that, but hey.
Once you blaze that joint. I mean, this is a really tricky topic. I think that's why we wanted to challenge here, right? We're not necessarily disparaging Justin Trudeau, and we're not trying to say that we want to go back to the Harper era. But at the same time, we just want people to, especially for our global listeners, right? A lot of our listeners are based in the United States, and a lot of the world seems to fawn over Justin Trudeau constantly. Yeah. Whereas, we should be made aware of there are still, downsides to the Trudeau administration.
Yeah, it's you get you basically get anointed this pretty boy, a symbol of like what a politician should be and what he says. But basically what we've gotten to is what he says isn't always what he does, but he's really good at crafting his message and pushing it out there. And obviously when compared to Trump, I mean, even when he's not following through with his promises people in the States. If you're like a Democrat in the States, you're gonna be like, "Oh, I'll fucking still take Justin Trudeau and be happy with it." I mean, fair enough.
I agree with that wholeheartedly.
I get it. I just think, for him, it's similar to Emmanuel Macron, who's like riding this wave of insane popularity. He's going to come crashing down to earth because politics are tough, right?
Yes.
Your enemies are always out to criticize and be against you, and you're going to have hiccups and losses along the way. You're going to disappoint your own people along the way. It's that fucking Batman line or whatever it was. Like, you either die a hero or live long enough to become a villain. And these days, nobody's dies a hero anymore. There's not enough JFKs out there.
And we want to start a flame war.
I guarantee you we'll see the same thing in a year and a half with Emmanuel Macron, who won a historic election, a parliamentary majority in France, and now has complete control of the country. In a year and a half, people are going to be pissed that their wistful change hasn't come through, that there isn't amazing peace and prosperity, and everybody isn't arriving around in Hummers and getting Hummers and
Well, yeah. I mean, Macron is also he's an unabashed globalist, and so he would also be another textbook definition of a neoliberal.
Yes, of course. I mean, he had a statement. He's like, I want to run France like a startup tech company. And I was like, that's a terrible way to fucking run a country. God damn, man.
And what tech company is going to start out with 35% seniors, right?
Yeah.
All these old people who don't know how to use the internet.
Okay, so for some quotes this week, we were going to make Steve King, the congressman from Iowa, our Cretin of the week, but obviously we're too busy. But this fucking asshole,
just too much news.
Yeah, this fucking asshole still needs to get some time here. So we're just going to end off with some horrible tweets by this fucking white supremacist piece of garbage. So number one, him talking about that right-wing Dutch, was it Gerald Wilders? I can't remember that. Gerald Wilders, the guy who lost the election, who's a right-wing fanatic out there.
Yeah.
And he goes, Wilders understands that culture and demographics are our destiny. We can't restore our civilization with somebody else's babies. Wishing to him again during the election day. Wishing you successful vote. Cultural suicide by demographic transformation must end. Hashtag genocide.
The king of hyperbole, eh?
He's asked what other subhuman groups have contributed to civilization other than white people.
And already labeling them subhuman.
He called for an electrified wall on the southern border, saying, "We do this with livestock all the time."
Wow. So Mexicans are cattle.
He said, "The greatest danger to a black man in America is another black man." He said the Supreme Court.
To be fair, a lot of politicians say that.
That's true. He said the Supreme Court's gay marriage ruling means that you can now marry a lawnmower.
I love that argument.
And finally, he is the famous guy. You've heard this quote before. He's the one saying that it's impossible to get pregnant by statutory rape and incest because legitimate. Sorry again. And finally, he's the one. He said that it's impossible. Wait, what was he said? He hasn't heard of anyone getting. Oh, because and in reference to Todd Aiken's famous legitimate rape comment that was a couple years ago, he said he hasn't ever heard of anybody getting pregnant by statutory rape or incest ever since Todd Aiken's comment. Prove me wrong.
Fuck. Well, yeah. I can honestly say I hope he gets impregnated and raped.
By Bill Cosby, after Bill Cosby gets raped by the president.
Yeah, you're next in line, son. Oh, well, yeah, we will be back next week. We got a comment section in the Facebook if you want to send us more hate mail, more hate letters. We're eager. We were so happy to have her first. Thank you very much, Terry from Kentucky. But yeah, in the meantime, we are the Serves. I'm Lance.
And I'm Dave. And via con el diablo.
Should we take that tweet from the president as confirmation that the president is under investigation?
Let me be clear, the president's not under investigation.
So the president said, I am under investigation, even though he isn't under investigation?
The president is not under investigation. The president issued that tweet, that social media statement, based on a fake report, a report with no documented sources from the Washington Post. The president has not been notified by anyone that he's under investigation. So he's being investigated for taking the action that the Attorney General and Deputy Attorney General recommended him to take.
First of all, you've now said that he is being investigated after saying that you didn't.
No.
You just said,
he's
sir,
not being
that
investigated.
you said he is being investigated, and it's not
Chris,
just being. And, wait a minute, Jay. You don't know whether he's under. You don't know whether he's under investigation. You don't know whether he's under investigation or not.
The president can't be indicted under the Constitution for the activities alleged in something like this. Of course not.
Why is that?
Because there's not an investigation. And there's
you don't know whether there's a. Oh boy, this is weird.
Jeez, Morty, purge it down a little.
Purge? Don't purge! You're sending me mixed messages, Rick!
Morty, you're acting like a frickin' lunatic. Calm down.
Screw you, Rick! I'll purge you too, you old rickety piece of crap! This has been a long time coming! I'm gonna rip your guts out and smear them all over your face! I ain't taking no shit!
Okay, sorry about that.